Well, you're right on time for breaking today. Good evening from where you're watching us from. My name is Joel Church and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. We have a lot in line for you and these are our top stories.
My argument is not based on whether or not you should have a degree or not a degree. My argument is based on what really is, what does that degree equate to?
Two petitions challenging degree requirement law for those seeking electoral positions are filed in court. Kenya is expecting a consignment of 358,000 Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from Denmark tonight at 9 p.m. On a weekly segment of the Visa Revolution, this week you get to interact with the first mobile barber in the country. Well, talk to us via social media platforms as Switch TV Kenya, Joel Chacha M on Twitter, as well on Facebook, Switch TV Kenya and Joel Chacha. Send in an SMS via 111 We begin in the corridors of justice, where Chief Justice Martha Koome, together with Justice Daniel Musinga, who is the president of the Court of Appeal, has transferred some judges of appeal and posted new judges. Transfers were done in accordance with the transfer policy of the Court of Appeal that spells out clearly how long a judge should serve in one station. 7 new judges joined the Court of Appeal together, or rather following the appointment and subsequent swearing in on June 4th, 2021. This brings the total judges' complement to 20 against maximum of 20 provided for in the Judiciary Act of 2012. Also, two from Mombasa and Kisumu out of the 3 stations closed in 2019 owing to shortage of judges will now have judges sitting permanently. The judges are expected to report to their new stations on July 1st, 2021. With the heated political debate on the level of education required by candidates to vie for elective posts next year, Gloria Orobwa has refuted claims that this petition was sponsored by Deputy President William Ruto. The petition was filed under certificate of emergency. That means it needs to be worked on by the court with utmost speed. Namukana Samuel reports.
Politician Gloria Orobwa has made allegations of her petition that seeks a court injunction to prevent the implementation of an amendment to Section 22 of the Constitution on elections being in any way involved with the Deputy President. This act requires all MCAs and MPs to have a degree before seeking an elective post.
The section in itself, first of all, goes against the rights, the Bills of Rights, where every Kenyan has a right to vote and every Kenyan has a right to be voted for.
The petition was filed under a certificate of urgency at the Milimani Law Court. Orobwa, who spoke exclusively to Switch TV today, claims the petition was funded by non-governmental organizations who are pushing for equality in the governance sector.
I can say that I'm lucky enough to have had, I have a very strong support system within my family, within my peers, and within different organizations that are advocating for youth representation.
Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya yesterday supported the implementation of the bill that is supposed to take effect in 2022. The bill was suspended in 2017 to allow readers to get to school and get the required certificates.
And I think the MCS were given time, even members of parliament, they were given time, 5 years, to make sure that they qualify or they obtain a degree. And, you know, if we keep on postponing this, then it will never happen.
My argument is not based on whether or not you should have a degree or not a degree. My argument is based on what really is, what does that degree equate to?
Elgeyo Marakwet Kipchumba Murkomen is set to table a bill in Parliament this week to stop the bill from taking effect during the next general election. DP William Ruto, while speaking to Baringo MCS last week, dismissed of the Election Act, claiming it was discriminatory in nature.
So does it have a political hand in terms of sponsorship from any politicians? Absolutely not. This is my initiative.
It is a matter of time before the courts decide if Section 22 of the Elections Act will be implemented or not. Namukana Samuel, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Namukana Samuel. Shifting our gears and now to matters health. Today, Kenya's COVID-19 positivity rate is at 8.5%. This is after 218 new cases were recorded and 5 deaths. Meanwhile, the country is set to receive 358,000 doses of the unused Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from Denmark to help in the fight against COVID-19. The Ministry of Health has confirmed that the consignment is expected to arrive at 9 p.m. tonight. This comes at a time when the ministry has expressed fear and panic over the surging cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant in the country. Robert Ouma with the details.
As COVID-19 continued to take effect and paralyzing activities in the country, Nyanza and Western regions being the latest hive, the Ministry of Health has expressed fears and panic over the rise of the highly contagious variant of COVID-19, the Delta variant.
We have our labs there, particularly the Camry lab, that is picking samples so that we can establish the number of Delta virus cases that may be there. And what is of concern and of importance, and particularly to those who reside in those 13 counties, is that we have been able to pick out cases of the Delta virus. And it is important for us to ensure that we really adhere to these measures because we want to prevent community transmission. We want to prevent a situation where this virus is not jumping from one person to another in the community.
The Ministry of Health noting that this variant is more infectious than other variants.
And I can tell you that right now the situation remains one that is critical in the 13 counties. We have engaged with the different county governments of the 13 counties, and we are mounting a response that is focusing on 4 key measures, of that being coordination.
At a time when the country's confirmed COVID-19 numbers are rising speedily to hit 200,000, the Ministry of Information has launched the third wave sensitization campaign to save the sinking public ship.
Let me remind all Kenyans that COVID-19 is real. And as the country fights the third wave, we must come together as a society to keep this disease at bay in order to avoid a fourth wave.
Concerning the COVID-19 restriction situation in the hotbed regions of Nyanza and Western, which includes worship and 7 p.m. curfew, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i said that it is all for the good and the health of citizens and it won't stop until the fight against COVID-19 is achieved.
We've had to put police officers on roadblocks. We have deployed, national government administrators, chiefs and assistant chiefs, county commissioners, deputy county commissioners across the, villages and communities. We are not doing this. It's not something we are doing out of joy and fun. We don't enjoy doing it. It's just that we are trying the best we can to help each other as Wananchi.
The Ministry of Health is now calling on the general public to follow the health protocols to avoid being victims of the Delta variant. The 13 counties that are now the hotspots for COVID-19 will continue with the new restrictions until then, when the government will do a review to determine whether or not to uplift the restrictions. Robert Ouma, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Robert Ouma. And I understand that the government has already extended the mandate of the Interfaith Council for by another 6 months. These are due to the surging numbers of COVID-19 in recent weeks. This is according to CS Matiang'i, who has gazetted it. And he said it is critical for the country since we are continuing to fight the spread of COVID-19. Away from that, Naivasha is set to host Kenya's biggest sporting event this year. The small town, which has a huge number of hotels, is boldly gearing up towards the event, and as Cedric Oronje reports, Naivasha town is ready for the FIA World event.
With only 2 days left to the start of the Grand WRC rally in Naivasha, Nakuru County, the town has been on the receiving end with a huge number of foreigners making an early entry. In regards to the preparedness, the town has been packed with motorsport billboards, WRC-branded rally motorcade, and of course the serene environment fully occupied with the loud rally noises that bring about the racing adrenaline. However, there are mixed reactions among residents of Naivasha in regards to how they will benefit from the FIA event.
Inaleta maendeleo kila mahali Kenya, inaleta watu kutoka nje na inainua biashara kama sasa venye imeanza hapa Naivasha, kuna maendeleo itafanyika na biashara itainuka.
Nimefurahia sana hiyo safari ile kuja Naivasha sababu matarajio tayari tumesawa kidogo, tumeondiwa barabara mahali tulikuwa na shida kama barabara ya kwenda Oseria ilikuwa mbaya sana, tumesha tengenezewa.
Lakini shida ni imerudi, sisi watu wa chini atuone that impact kwamba kuna kitu ishawafanyika. So ukiangalia unasikia okay, mahoteli zimejaa, zimebukiwa, hawa wageni wako wapi?
Far from the local business holders, hoteliers have a different dimension given that the town is fully booked, hence no space is left for outsiders with only 2 days left for the rally action.
Licha ya kwamba tulikuwa tumeathiriwa kidogo kama hoteli, kidogo kama industry, wakati ni sasa kidogo mvua ya baraka imetunyeshea. Kwa hivyo tumejiandaa, unavyoona tumepiga msasa.
Now, Naivasha is slowly doing away with the norm of people referring to it as the ghost town, as the town is set to host Kenya's biggest sporting event, the World Rally Championship, in 2 days' time. Cedric Oronje, Switch TV, Naivasha, Nakuru County.
Thank you, Cedric Oronje, who is, of course, camping in Naivasha to bring you that particular story. Moving on, President Uhuru Kenyatta has today been received by King Philip at the Royal Palace in Brussels at the start of his 2-day official visit to the Kingdom of Belgium and the European Union. The president, who is accompanied by Cabinet Secretaries Rachel Omam of Foreign Affairs, Betty Maina of Trade, and Aiden Mohammed of ESC, held private talks with King Philip. Speaking ahead of the president's arrival, Kenya's ambassador to Belgium, Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, said during the visit the head of state will address matters related to Kenya and Belgium and Kenya-EU relations, as well as regional agenda, in his capacity as the chairperson of the East Africa Community.
Not only to touch on issues as pertains to that particular agreement, but issues that are dear to Kenya. Let's talk about the bilateral relations. We expect that the president, as part of his meeting actually, is going to meet the king, His Royal Highness, the King of Belgians. In that meeting, of course, you mentioned certain things that relate to the two countries. But I want Kenyans to know that this country, Belgium, has quite a good number of investors who invest in Kenya. Quite a good number of them, either as business community or as a nation. And let me start with the business community. The business community even had a mission in 2017, after meeting the president somewhere around in 2016. And in that mission, they addressed issues about energy, investment, and all those things. So part of this is to promote the Belgian investors to go and invest in Kenya.
Well, we are due for a short commercial break, 11 minutes now past 7 p.m. But before that, several people have been injured while others are feared trapped after a bridge collapse in Kangemi. Of course, we'll be giving an update of that as soon as we get them. But for now, we're taking a short commercial break. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Breaking Today. My name is Joel Church and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. A 9-story building in Kamukunji is slowly caving in as entrepreneurs watch their communities reduced to rubble by bulldozers. The building, which is used as a storage by entrepreneurs, started caving in yesterday at 8 p.m. and now hanging in as a precarious manner, or rather in a precarious manner. Multi-agency operation has joined hands in bringing down the building as it is a danger to other businesses and people living around the area. The top 6 floors have been sandwiched and hanging on the other floors. More than 30 registered tenants in the building are counting losses after storing their shipments in the building awaiting to do business. The entrepreneurs who could not even salvage a thing from the building could only stare at the bulldozers munching into their investment. The entrepreneurs say that each had shipped commodities worth millions.
As you can see, we've been affected. Well, the building started crumbling yesterday, so jana tukaitwa at around 2 p.m. But when we came, kujaribu kuingia ndani, some of the doors were not opening, so we couldn't go above the 4th floor. So we've not been able to salvage anything. And as it is, I don't think we'll be able to salvage because they're bringing down the whole building. Then I don't think there's anyone who's going to compensate because I'm not sure if the building was insured. But yeah, so we are just waiting for them to bring down the building, then we see how much we can salvage. Well, the owners were trying to see what they could do yesterday, but they didn't come up with a conclusive. There was nothing to be done to save the building from crumbling. So as it is, we are waiting for communication from them. Currently, the building started coming down at around 4 in the morning. So we'd say there are no casualties.
Now, whether you have a laptop, a desktop, smartphone, or a tablet, your device has an operating system also known as OS. Today, we'll show you what an operating system is and talk about a few of the most common operating systems. Apollo James with more.
Did you know that you and your computer speak different languages? It doesn't speak Spanish or Swedish or Chinese. It speaks in ones and zeros. You can't communicate directly with your computer, but that's where your operating system comes in. The operating system, or OS, is the program that lets you interact with your computer. Together, the operating system and computer hardware form a complete system that determines what your computer can do. There are many different operating systems. 2 of the most common ones are Microsoft Windows and Mac OS. Windows comes preloaded on most personal computers, while Mac OS runs on all new Macs. Operating systems aren't just for desktop and laptop computers. Mobile devices run mobile operating systems like Apple iOS and Google Android, which are designed for interactions with smaller touch screens. Before downloading a new program or application, be aware that it may not be available for your operating system. Some applications work on all devices, while others only work on certain ones. So get to know your operating system to see how it works and what it can do. Apollo James, Switch TV.
Thank you, Apollo James, for that informative piece. Moving on and crossing borders now, the United Kingdom has been seeing a continuous increase of its vaccination rate, while the number of deaths nationwide from COVID-19 has remained at a low level. The number of people vaccinated in the UK accounted for over 60% of the total population. David Kagina narrates.
More than 42.9 million people have been given their first jab of the coronavirus vaccine across the country, while over 31.3 million people have been fully vaccinated with the second dose. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced that as Delta coronavirus variant spreads rapidly in some parts of the UK, England will postpone lifting the final phase of COVID-19 lockdown restrictions for 4 weeks. England was originally scheduled to lift the 4th phase of the coronavirus prevention measures on Monday if the epidemic situation was stable, but the increase in new infections has hampered the plans. The UK has reported an additional 9,284 coronavirus cases as of Sunday, bringing the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country to 4,630,040 infections, according to official figures released. The country has also recorded another 6 coronavirus-related deaths, with the total number of coronavirus-related deaths in the UK now standing at 127,976 people. David Kagina, Switch TV.
Still a focus on the international news that the durian season this year came later due to the poor weather and the COVID-19 pandemic. The durian flowers and buds are withered due to fluctuating weather in Malaysia in March this year, sharply reducing the output of durians, which should have begun to mature in May. Namukana Samuel reports.
The 1 kilometer Tambak Johor or Johor Singapore Causeway connects Singapore and its largest durian provider, Malaysia. It saw a daily passenger flow of about 400,000 people before the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. But now, only logistics vehicles are allowed to pass through it, and drivers are required to undergo rapid coronavirus detection. The durian flowers and buds withered due to fluctuating weather in Malaysia in March this year, sharply reducing the output of durians, which should have begun to mature in May.
This year's durian season will be of 2 and 3 weeks later, as there was more rain at the beginning of the year. And that's why the durian blooms later.
Durian's quality can hardly be guaranteed first falls on the ground. In addition to the recent resurgence of the pandemic in Singapore and Malaysia, local governments have adopted control measures greatly hindering sales of durians. Logistic drivers are demanded to conduct a rapid pathogen detection when entering Singapore, so the entry time is extended accordingly.
Generally speaking, durians, especially the Musang King durians, do not start out with a great quality, and quality will be stable 1 more week later. The durians will and should also be sold the same day, because durians from Malaysia can't be kept. So today's durians had better be sold today.
Namukana Samuel, Switch TV.
And now let's get the latest from the world of business. Now, ever imagine getting your haircut in a remote barber shop by a barber in a suit and at your home? On a weekly segment of the Biz Revolution this week, we get to interact with Barkat Manji, who the first mobile barber in the country who changed his static barbershop to a mobile barbershop, overcoming the challenge of COVID-19 on his business. Take a look.
This is not your normal barber, not your normal barbershop, and definitely the first of a kind. This is Barkat Manji, the first mobile barber in the country. Barkat has been in the shaving business for 5 years now, operating in the traditional static barbershop. But when COVID-19 hit, he had to change his business model.
A lot of clients were calling me to their house, so they got comfortable with that. I remember this idea, I was just sitting with my friend one day and we were watching videos on YouTube about the mobile barber shops, in the UK, in the States and all that. And we were just like, you know what, this is such a great idea. Why don't we just be the first?
Barkat spends around 15 hours in this van, transversing around the city of Nairobi, attending to an average of 10 clients a day, and at times resting for only 4 hours.
Obviously, traffic is a challenge, with the new highway being built, so that is a very big challenge for me. So the reason why I even sleep for a few hours sometimes is because of traffic. So I have to be at a client's house by 5 a.m. So if I'm at your door at 5, I'm up maybe by 3:30, 4, And sometimes I work till curfew time.
What's your pricing plan?
3,000 for a haircut, even way before this car was released.
But why would you pay 3,000 Kenyan shillings for your cut?
Why would I pay 3,000 for such a service? Why not actually? Because it saves me time because of the convenience it comes to I am.
By his look alone, you can tell the quality of his services.
On the day I decided to from the time I started thinking about being a barber, I always saw myself in a suit. So every time I'd imagine myself cutting in a suit with suspenders, the vintage way of...
Setting up this remote barbershop was not a walk in the park. The investment here is a reflection of the experience he offers.
I'm giving you an experience, the same experience you'd get in any barbershop. You know, you get the manicure, you get the pedicure, you get the facial, you know, you get a haircut.
For the young entrepreneur, business can only be as good as the marketing plan.
So I have my Instagram, I have my Twitter, I have my TikTok, I have Facebook. Plus, obviously, it's a big van, you know. So everywhere I go, you know, everyone can see what it is. And even when I'm on the road in traffic, I get calls. Hey, I'm right behind you. How much do you charge? Can you stop on the side and shave me? You know. So.
For the entrepreneur, necessity is the mother of invention. And in as much as the pandemic is here with us, a new business model is not far from your sight. Just look around.
I've had the privilege to shave quite a few politicians, influencers, celebrities like actors, you know. Also, I'd say maybe a few billionaires, Kenyan billionaires. I've shaved quite a few.
With such inventions, COVID-19 is no longer a scapegoat. Maybe what you need is a change of model. That's it from the first episode of The Biz Revolution. My name is Brian Mwenda, and this is Switch TV.
You know, I'm trying to imagine with that story by Brian Mwenda, if here at Switch TV we could be giving excuse of not shaving, then our HR just decides to bring the remote barber. But for now, let's get sporty. Football Kenya Federation is pleading with the fans, coaching team and players to observe the game rules and protect the integrity of the game.